this is Mad Movie Mark on the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1933 family comedy State Fair.
He gets bigger every time I see him. Come on, Luke. Come here, look, Marge.
Well, that is fair. I've been packing it on a little bit, especially since Christmas. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started the 1920 silent movie era. I finished all the way up through the 1980s, and then this movie wound up on the list from 1933, so I have to backtrack and review it. Now, how does that happen? The movies on this list all have at least 20 critics who reviewed it, so once a movie hits 20 critics, it's on the list and I have to review it. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 53 fresh rating from the audience, which is pretty terrible, honestly. It was nominated for Best Picture. It lost to Cavalcade, which is considered one of the worst Best Picture winners of all time. Not nominated that year was King Kong and Duck Soup, both better movies than this or Cavalcade. So that is why people give up on the Oscars every year. Movies that are the best movies are not nominated for Best Picture. This movie stars Janet Gaynor as Margy Frake, Will Rogers as Abel Frake, Louse Dresser as Melissa Frake, and Norman Foster as Wayne Frake. Now, Janet is the daughter, Abel is the father, Louse is the mother, and Norman is the son. Janet Gaynor was also in another movie I reviewed called A Star is Born, and she also was in Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, which I hear is just a fantastic movie, and that is next on my list to watch. So this movie has two very great, amazing scenes. The cinematography is fantastic. The way it's shot is fantastic. These scenes really rise above all the other scenes in the movie, and the rest of the movie is just not very good, in my opinion. It's okay, but it's not good. So this movie is about a family who are getting ready to go to the state fair. Now, Margy Frake is somewhat involved with a gentleman who believes that he is going to marry her, but she, first of all, it doesn't seem like she knew that she was getting married to this guy, and it also doesn't seem like she wants to get married to him. He's kind of a safe type of pick for a husband. He's not too adventurous, and that's kind of what she wants in her life. She wants adventure, she wants danger, she wants excitement, and this gentleman just doesn't offer it to her. We also have Norman Foster, who is the son. Now, he was at the fair the year before, and he was kind of conned in a fair prize game where you throw rings over prizes to win the prizes. Now, he spent all of his money to win a gun, and when he got the gun, it ended up falling apart, and it was fake, and he was very upset. So he dedicated the whole year up until this next state fair to practicing this game. He has the whole thing set up in his barn, his shed, and he practices every day so that he can go and make a fool out of that guy who gave him the bad gun. Louse Dresser is the mother. She is cooking, or she's making pickles and some sort of meat dish. I don't remember what kind of meat dish it was for the state fair. Basically, her life up until this point has revolved around her pickles and her meat and getting it perfect, because winning this competition is what a woman's goal in life is. Your goal as a woman is to be a good wife, to be a good mother, and to go to the state fair and win the pickle competition. At least that's how they state it in this movie. Now, there's a scene in the movie that I think is supposed to be funny, but it's not really. At least maybe back then, back in the olden day, it was funny, but today not so much, where the husband takes a bite of this meat dish that she's making and realizes that it's not very good, so he pours a bunch of alcohol in it, and then he leaves. And then she walks in the room, and she's reading the directions, and she says, oh, it needs a pinch of alcohol. So she finishes the rest of the bottle of alcohol.
Hello, Eleanor? Yeah.
And I think this is supposed to be funny, but it's a joke that's overdone nowadays, so it doesn't really hold up. I mean, maybe it was like it pioneered that joke back then, but not really that great today. And then you have Will Rogers, who I mistook for Roy Rogers throughout this entire movie, who is Abel Frake. And his passion in life is he has this pig named Blue Boy, and Blue Boy is he's trying to make him a prize-winning pig, and his life is dedicated to Blue Boy. All he talks about is Blue Boy. All he cares about is Blue Boy. And even if Blue Boy doesn't eat, he doesn't eat. If Blue Boy doesn't sleep, he doesn't sleep. His life revolves around this pig and winning this competition. So they all have something that they're like striving for. They all have something that they're chasing, and they very much have tunnel vision to where this is all that they want in life, and it's all that they care about in life. So when they get to, also, there's this really annoying scene in the movie where Will's friend joins him right before they go to the fair, and he starts talking about how you shouldn't have any hope in life, how you shouldn't hope that you're going to win at the fair, because that will surely make you lose and you'll be defeated. And if you have too much hope and you want something too much, you're obviously going to fail. And I've gone through a lot of therapy in my life because I had the same type of mentality, and therapy's helped me, and it's just a terrible mentality to have, because if you're like me, you'll never try to accomplish anything in life. You'll never try to do anything in life because you're always afraid that if something good happens, something bad's going to happen. And I think I took more offense to this part of the movie than anyone else would have, because I just think it's terrible advice. It's a terrible mindset to have, and it's really annoying to me that they put it in the movie, because it really doesn't need to be there. Like, at the end of the movie, they bring it up again, but there's really no need. There's no point in the movie where this comes up again. There's no point in the movie where you think that this is ever going to happen. So it's a conversation that really only happens so at the end of the movie, they can recap what happened and tie things together, basically. It's really terrible. So when they get to the fair, the pig ends up falling ill until he sees a rival pig, and then he gets up the stamina to win that prize. So basically, the whole father's plot in this movie is to walk around acting sad and acting depressed that his pig might be sick, and to act badly while he's doing this. So you can kind of set him aside, even though the movie's really about this pig and about winning the competition for his timeline, for his story. You can set that aside because that's really all he does. There's no other point for the father to be there besides walking around being sad for himself and trying to win this pig competition. So the real story in this movie, and the real story in this movie is not the wife either. She ends up winning all the prizes at the fair. Sorry if you're going to watch it. I'll spoil this movie because you really shouldn't watch it. So she ends up winning all the prizes at the fair. Everyone loves everything that she made, and she ends up going back to her town with her head held high, and she is now a prominent member of her neighborhood because she has won the grand prize for women. So she has a very happy ending. Now the son and the daughter are really where the story and where the emotions and the feelings in this movie happen. So Margy ends up going on a roller coaster, and she meets a gentleman who's sitting next to her. Now this is one of the scenes that is actually a really well shot scene. When they're on the roller coaster, so the camera is on the roller coaster facing forward, and you kind of see the dips and the turns and the twists. Now today that would be not that big a deal, but for the 1930s, I think that probably was a pretty big deal, putting the camera on something like that and just seeing what it could do. And it's a pretty great shot. It's a pretty great sequence, really. Now, during this roller coaster ride, Margy gets afraid, and this guy helps her, and then he ends up kind of pushing himself on her the rest of the day. And, eventually after 3 days in the fair, hanging out together and doing stuff together, they realize they're in love. So they pronounce their love for each other. But, circumstances happen and you don't think it's actually going to work out. And then we'll come back to that later. Now, Norman Foster, Norman Foster, who plays Wayne Frake. So Wayne, he ends up winning that ring tossing competition and makes a complete fool out of the guy who runs the competition. So, he's accomplished his thing.
Fountain pen, 4-carat point. Well, the young man rings the dollar the first time. A pearl-handled revolver. Protect the wife and kiddies. Yeah, you're enjoying the courtesy of the house. Don't cost us money.
After he does that, he meets a woman who ends up being like a trapeze artist at the fair, and he ends up like having ends up falling for her. And they go on a bunch of dates too, and they hang out together. And at the end, he proclaims his love for her, and he talks about how he wants to marry her. For some reason, she says, "I can't marry you," but there's no reason behind it, and you never get a reason behind it that I can remember. She just plainly says, "I don't have any plans to marry you, and I don't foresee us being together ever." And that's kind of where their relationship ends. Like, that's it. So it's a lot of build-up there for nothing. But to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of like the 3-day knowing someone and then like, "I want to marry you." I know it happens a lot in movies because movies you can only fit so much into one movie, especially if it's about a fair. But I'm not a huge fan of the, "I've known you for 3 days, here's a wedding ring" type of thing. So I was okay with them not being together. I was perfectly fine with that. And then at the end of the movie, Margy tells her gentleman friend who thinks he's marrying her, she doesn't really tell him anything. She gets a phone call from the guy she met at the fair, and then she ends up running off to him, and I'm assuming they end up together at the end. And that's pretty much the entire movie. To be honest, I thought as a whole, like everyone in this movie, the acting was pretty poor, specifically from Janet Gaynor and Will Rogers. Will was absolutely terrible. There's a couple scenes with Janet that are really bad.
What are you laughing about, young lady?
Oh, Daddy. I wish you loved me and Wayne the way you do Blue Boy.
Well, I'm not trying to get you two kids ready to try to win a prize at the big state fair, am I?
And I'm thinking that maybe Sunrise, a song of two humans, I think that's a silent film, and I'm thinking maybe that she is like better as a silent film actress than she is like a talkie actress. But I've only seen this one movie with her where she's acting, but it's actually not great. It's not good at all. Like, I feel like her the like emotions that she tries to put into things, like if it was a silent film, she really has that like presence of like body language, but she just doesn't have the acting chops to back it up. And I thought she was terrible. Will Rogers, he just sulks the whole time and acts depressed about this pig, and it brings you down. And it's like, can you do something else? Just do anything else in this movie besides be depressed about the pig, please. Louse Dresser, they don't give her a whole lot to do besides the pickle and the meat thing, so whatever. You don't even see her that often. There are a few, so there is one very funny line in this movie, and I don't know if it was meant to be funny, but there's a point when Margy Frake and her boyfriend that she just met are talking, and for some reason she calls him an idiot.
Have a ride?
Oh, I came to tell you I can't.
Why not?
Well, I've got to get up the exhibition hall.
What's the matter?
With my mother's pickles and mincemeat. They're being judged.
Oh, well, they can't give them more than 30 days unless they've been guilty of a felony.
No, idiot. They're going to see if she has the best pickles or whether they know their mincemeat.
And it's very out of left field, out of nowhere. And I don't hear a lot of movies, especially from like this time period, where the movie Idiot is said in a derogatory way. And I thought it was funny and very weird, and a very weird line to put in that part of the movie. And I didn't understand why it was there. She almost says it like under her breath, like it wasn't part of the script or something. But besides that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about this movie. The acting was bad. Definitely does not deserve a Best Picture nomination. Not sure why the critics have it as 100% fresh, because it's just like, it's not even I mean, I'm going to give it a decent score. Oh, yeah, the second scene. I didn't talk about the second scene in this movie that I thought was really good. So Margy and her guy friend, they end up going to it's like a horse race. I think a horse racing event. And the race itself is actually shot really, really well too for like a 1930s movie where you don't have a lot of technology. It's not that far removed from like the silent film era, so they don't have like a whole lot to work with here, but it's shot very well. Like the scene is very well done. Cinematography around these two scenes, the roller coaster and the race, is great. Like for this time period, like I don't know if you can get any better than these two scenes. Fantastic. It's just sad that the rest of the movie is really bad because it didn't. I don't feel like it had to be that way. But I wouldn't really recommend this movie. I mean, there's a lot of family-oriented movies out there that you could watch that are better than this. Like National Velvet would be a better movie that you could watch. Meet Me in St. Louis would be a better movie. I mean, they're later movies. They're not 1930 movies. But this definitely isn't like a top-notch like family type of movie for what it's going for. I give it a 7 out of 10. And most of that is just for those two scenes that I just thought were captivating and very well done. And they're so well done for the time period that I think that they deserve a pretty big bump. So I give the movie a 7 out of 10. The next movie that I will be reviewing is going to be from 1951. So we're still back in time. And it's going to be a movie called Captain Horatio Hornblower. I have watched the movie. I finished it. So I just have to film it. So that's going to be next. Probably be tomorrow. Thank you. I hope you guys have a good night.